This is Energy of Business Moments with Michael Sipe, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their business success into your life and business. Energy of Business Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Michael Sipe.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Strategic Advisor Board podcast. In this series, we're doing the Energy of Business Moments. I'm Michael Sipe, your host, and today I've got Michael Jefferson of J&G Aviation based in Texas. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Well, hey, I love aviation, as a Navy pilot and airline pilot in former life myself. I appreciate that. And you have your own business. It's been going around for a few years, and you've also have been a pilot for American Airlines, and that's great. And you've got your military background. So you and I share some commonality in terms of what we've done in our careers, but more importantly, we love business. And so when we talk business, sometimes you have some highs, sometimes you have some lows. So if you could, tell us a little bit about your business, and then we'll talk about some of those highs or lows.
Sure, Michael. So we're down here in Grand Prairie, Texas, the southern end of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We've been in business, it will be 7 years this August, okay? And we are an aircraft maintenance business for generally considered general aviation, small, personally owned aircraft. So we started out, just my partner and I, and we immediately hired a couple apprentices to work with us. One of them had actually gone through school with me. And so we started out from there, and we've kind of gone along that path. We were doing great guns for the first 4 years, 4.5 years. Grew every year in revenue, tripled in size that going into that fourth year. We were doing great things, and then the pandemic came. So like most everyone out there, it has been a tough couple of years for us. General aviation and therefore general aviation maintenance is kind of the poster child / photo in the dictionary right next to disposable income. So, when people were starting to be concerned about where things were going, whether it was a job or whatever, that really pulled back on us. So it's been a tough 2 years. We're back beyond where we were that fourth year. The last 2 years we weren't. We've fallen back in revenue and size, and it's been kind of a slow row to hoe back up the hill. But we are, since last June, every month, except for one, month over month, our revenue has been up from the previous year, and this quarter quite a bit more. So that's kind of what we are. We have a staff of 5 full-time mechanics and 3 part-time mechanics. Also have a support group. Lynn handles everything that doesn't involve a wrench, and has been a huge aid to me. And so she and I kind of together work that side of the business. We do have a fractional CFO as well. And if you knew how bad I was with numbers, you would have said that should have been the first guy you hired. But anyway, Tony has been a real godsend to us and has taught me so much about the financial side that I had no idea. Partner and I went into the business thinking, well, people need aircraft fixed. We can fix aircraft. There's a business.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, you saw a need, right? And you grew it for 4 years, and then you ran into the pandemic, and obviously it sidelined like a lot of businesses, the ability to grow, and so it impacted the bottom line. But what I loved hearing about is you being able to say, well, hey, what can we do about it? And how can we get back on our feet and growing again? So congratulations on getting that turned around. And I think one of the things that's also interesting too is how you've seen the need to sort of incrementally adjust and grow to be aware of what that bottom line looks like. And so you're monitoring your P&L, whether it's a fractional COO or part-time help. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Well, I actually understand those things. So, I can look at all those things now. And with Tony's help, the fractional CFO, I now know everything I didn't know before, which was a lie.
Sure does. Good. Well, hey, so 6.5, 7 years of being in business. obviously there's some highs, sometimes there's some lows in business. And so, we can have in our day-to-day work, we have different stressors that come in. And so when we talk about energy of our personality, of how we are set up as a person, we can go high and low, and those are kind of the emotions and thoughts we think, and that drives our energy level. So I say to a lot of people is, hey, where we place our attention is where we place our energy. And so if we're mired in some of the challenges of business, we can really get focused on those negative pieces, and pretty soon our energy is coming down and we're fighting, and we can't dig out of the hole. So you, having dug out of the hole a few times, what's a high moment for you in your work?
Well, I will tell you, so right now, and it ties in with the challenge that we're currently facing, which is manning, right? Having the right people on board the bus, if you will, and in the right seats. So my high points is when I hired the folks that are with us right now. Every one of them is an absolute gem, and each time we either had somebody let themselves go, or they let themselves go prior to us letting them go, or in a couple of cases we had to let them go. And then you look at this thinking, because they were doing work and they were doing, producing revenue, but you're going, I don't think I can make that back. And then miraculously, you have somebody that comes in that's better than you ever would have imagined. So those were my high points. On a personal level, one of them was my son, who actually had no background in aviation or maintenance. I just wanted him to come in and help me because I was so kind of overwhelmed with the number of the different things. He came in and almost immediately migrated from helping with some of the things, the if you will, support stuff, onto the shop. Instantly took a love of being a mechanic, and took from zero background to 3 years coming up. I think this will be his 4th year this summer. Has actually he's a natural mechanic, and he's taken over a lot of kind of leadership roles and things like that. Our director of maintenance, Jimmy Wilson, Vietnam veteran, came on board. He'd gone into retirement, and I managed to sneak him to come back out, and he has been an absolute godsend. He knows more about maintenance, like they say, than I'll ever. I mean, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know, right? So, all my folks, they're all, I don't want to take a lot of time, but they're all absolutely phenomenal. So that's without a doubt the high point. From a business perspective, we had one contract we were able to get with the Civil Air Patrol, and that has been a godsend as well. It's carried us through the last 2 years because they keep flying their mission, and they need their airplanes supported. So that has been another from a customer perspective. And then, quite frankly, it took me a long time. When I started, you want any job you can get, and you don't want to turn anything down. Right. And pretty soon, I say pretty soon, it wasn't pretty soon for me. It should have been somewhere in a 3-year point. I started realizing that I was spending a lot of time on certain people, and it just wasn't that productive for them or for me. And yet I had some great customers, and we still do, that we weren't really attending to as well as we should have. So that piece. So that's the other high point, is as I came to that realization, and I started going through our customer list. I go, there are some great people that trust us, with a lot. When you're working on someone's airplane, it's not like a car. You can't pull over the side of the road and call AAA, right? So there's a lot of trust involved in that. So that and that realization, I think those were my highest points, without a doubt.
Yeah, those are great points. And I love how you talked about, hey, when you were hiring, you enjoyed bringing people on and finding a fit for them. And then when they were a great fit for you, and it just really blossomed and created a much better company. And obviously what you do then is you translate that over into the customer side. Customers like what they're getting. And so you figured out, hey, there's some of these customers we don't need to spend as much time on. They're more of a time suck and not much revenue generating. But these others, man, they really appreciate our work. How about we keep focusing on them and keep building that? So you hit the sweet spot in terms of how do you marry up the employees with good customer service and then retaining those customers? So well done. Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, hey, we're talking about hiring and what would you share with people about what you've been doing lately? Whether it's working or not, what are you doing?
And it is. It is. However, I will say to you that is, to my understanding, it's going to always be a work in progress. I watch what's going on in multiple industries. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of churn right now in jobs and turnover and things like that. I call it the dark art of finding the A players. And it's a dark art not because it's bad. It's a dark art because there's a lot of magic involved. There are some really systemic things that you can do, a process, right? And I've subscribed and read a lot about A player hiring. There's some folks out there that know a lot about it. Top grading is one of the systems that's out there that just, I think, does a really good job of talking how to do that. But we have a process in place. The initial, if you will, pre-screening that happens, you look and then we have a screening thing. Our first call is with me. I had 2 over the weekend, a screening interview. And that's 99% of that is this a cultural fit? Is it a cultural fit for the individual coming into our culture? And is a cultural fit for us to them? Are they going to be happy being here? Right? Because if either one of those don't fit, and usually they both won't fit ultimately, no one may admit it right up front, but it won't fit. And if that doesn't happen, it doesn't work. And I think in a lot of the business books, and I don't quote because I can't remember details. I think I know, but I won't say it. They talk about having the right people on the bus. And those are your cultural fits, right? People that you all work together, you respect each other, you value each other, value what they bring into the business. So that's the right people on the bus. That's a cultural fit for me. I don't even want to look at somebody if they're not going to fit in here, because they'll come in and they will be so disruptive no matter how good they are at whatever you put them in. Right? Of course, in the next one is now they're on a bus, they're the right people. We got to make sure we got them in the right seat. And that's certainly much easier said than done. They have certain skill sets and things, but you know what? People, as they go through and they develop, they branch into different things. A lot of times, leadership. A lot of folks are unbelievable craftsmen in what they do. And that's certainly true in our business. I mean, there are aircraft mechanics that are just Zen-like, right? I am an aircraft mechanic. I want to say that out loud, but nobody ever lets me touch a wrench, right? They go back, get on a computer. I go, and they go, get on a computer.
Yeah.
So I'm always in awe of the folks that are working for us. And, but there's a point where I want to do this or I don't want to do that, right? And so, and not in a, I don't want to do because it's a dirty job, micro way. That's just not really my forte. So kind of, if you will, a zone of genius inside their zone of genius of fixing airplanes. And again, that's specific to our business, but I think it's true in anybody's business. So you got the right people on the bus, you got them in the right seats. You can't stop the bus. The bus is going to go and it's going to do great things. We then do a skills interview. And then from that, then we do a 2-on-1 interview. If that works, then we do reference checks, and we always do reference checks. And we tell them that right up front. Out of the top rating book, they say, oh, that's the truth, sir. If they know you're going to go talk to their previous peers and those sorts of things, they're going to go ahead and be a little bit more forthcoming with things. I won't say truthful, forthcoming with things. So anyway, we do that. We do the background check, and then we make a conditional job offer based upon drug testing and background checks. So that's but we have a very defined process. So that's kind of scientific. But the art is the ability then to determine, are they a good cultural fit? And I still work with that. I won't say I struggle, but I work with that, right? I mean, you can go out there and hold up, here's our list of our values. And we do. We have our purpose. We have our values. What do you think about those? Well, I think they're great. All right, well done. And we're done here, So that's the hard part, right? But without a doubt, that's the hiring piece, the way I see it. And that's singularly the most important piece. Second most important piece. If I could back up 7 years ago, I would have gotten to know myself better, right? I hadn't done any assessments. I've subsequently done strength finders, Colby A, and then there's a thing with the rocket fuel assessment to find out visionary versus integrator. By the way, I'm a visionary. And integration makes my head explode, and I'm looking for a good aviation integrator to help me at this level. So getting to know myself, then using that to pick the right partner. And then from there, when you bring your people on board. But it's all about the people, starting with yourself. And those are the lessons. And you would have thought after 24 years in the military, I would have known that. Apparently, I didn't. So anyway.
Yeah, life's a journey, man. We are always growing, figuring out how to do it right. Yeah, well, congrats on being able to put together a process. I mean, that is a comprehensive process that you've got for hiring, and the investment now. I think that it speaks to the investment now that you put into that process means that it saves you time down the road if you don't have the right person, because they never come in. Right. But you're bringing in somebody who wants to be there and then will fit well and fit in with that culture.
That's right.
So that's great. Yeah.
That's right.
And I think you're going to see, would it be fair to say that your revenue starts growing much faster when you have that kind of environment?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. That's what generates all that, right? So that's where it comes from. It comes from having the right people in place. And then you leverage the background and experience and knowledge of all those people. I am, if at my finest, I'm one person's worth of halfway decent ideas, right? But when I leverage all these really smart, sharp people, then it just explodes, right? So my job has never been to make myself necessarily better, although I always want to do that, but it's to get other smarter people on board and pulling in the same direction in the business that I am. So that's what we're all about. So
Great. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, one final question for you.
Yeah.
If you could meet anybody, who would you meet and why?
So, all right. I should think of some aviation icon. And I will say there is one guy that I would love to meet in aviation, and that was a guy named Clarence Kelly Johnson. Designed, if you're familiar, but the P-38, the P-80, the first jet, the SR-71, the U-2. I mean, all of his stuff was usually out there, cutting edge, out of the box stuff. I just like to see how he thinks. That would have been awesome. But ultimately, Shakespeare. And it's amazing to me how much insightful he is even in today's day and age. And so I think when I've gone through over the years, I studied literature and particularly Shakespeare in college, and I realized that it wasn't that he was as insightful of now as we're really not all that much different than they were then. We're human beings, right? And so all the things, our foibles, our strengths, our weaknesses, collectively, individually, all those things still apply. So, and I would love to sit down and pick his brain. Now, I actually have spent time there in Stratford and sat down and had a drink or two in a couple of the old bars. And I pretended when I was there, and I might have been right that he'd been there, sort of thing. I didn't find anybody that really struck me as being Shakespearean-like at the time, but I had good conversations. So, but yeah.
Good. Well, hey, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, you're spot on. Human nature doesn't change over time. The setting will change, but the human nature just doesn't change. Yeah, good. Well, Michael, thank you for being on the show today. You've shared some great wisdom, some great ideas. Hopefully anybody watching this episode and listening to it will get some insight and actually be able to implement some of these things that you've been doing to make your business successful. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks for listening to Energy of Business Moments with your host, Michael Sipe. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.